Hey everyone! So I got this awesome message from one of you guys. It really stuck with me. He wrote, "Hey bro, 6 years ago I listened to a story. Not this story, but it was about the wife cheating, planning on destroying the husband and father. So he took his daughter and son on a sailboat for years with the old guy who drives the sailboat. Very cool and sad, happy story. It was amazing. Could you find it and play it? I think it was a 2-hour story. It was very cool, would mean a lot. Cheers." I just want to say, thanks so much for your support and the donation. So, for you, and for everyone who's ever wondered about that story, here it is. I hope this is the one you remember. Let's dive in. Shelley's hidden affair with neighbor Tom ignites a storm in her seemingly perfect life. Manipulating her work hours, she spends secretive days with Tom, leaving her husband suspicious. When Shelley announces a sudden trip to the Virgin Islands, her husband's doubts explode. He tracks her to a luxurious yacht where betrayal is laid bare. The confrontation at the marina is tense as Shelley's lies crumble. Her husband, now fueled by rage, sets a ruthless plan in motion. The stage is set for a dramatic showdown that will tear their lives apart. I slumped down in my chair and glanced at my phone. It was just past 9 p.m., and I felt so tired. The twins were already asleep. I had picked them up from school at 4 p.m. that afternoon, which meant I left work almost an hour and a half early. As soon as they were in the car, I drove us home. I quickly made dinner, played with them for an hour, and then spent another hour trying to get them to sleep. I was feeling really frustrated. I stood up and made my way to the bedroom, tossing my clothes aside as I walked to the bed. I collapsed onto the bed in just my boxers and fell asleep quickly. When the alarm went off at 6 a.m., I could barely move. I rolled onto my back and groaned. A few minutes later, I was in the bathroom under a hot shower, trying to wake up. To save time, I shaved in the shower, got out, and dressed quickly for work. Next, I needed to get the twins ready for school. They were both in first grade at the local elementary school. After handing them each a slice of cherry pie and a juice box, I turned my attention to breakfast. I made myself some coffee. Using the Keurig, that little caffeine boost helped me feel better. Thankfully, our local school offers a morning program for parents who need to be at work early. Most kids arrive at school before class starts. I dropped the twins off, and one of the teachers waved to me while guiding them inside for a little snack before their regular classroom time. I didn't stick around, wanting to reach my office as early as I could to make up for leaving work early. I work as a financial analyst, and I'm pretty good at it. I make a good salary and take care of my family well. I thought my marriage was strong and I felt loved by my wife, but that all changed just 4 days ago when my wife came and sat next to me. I was relaxing by the backyard pool with a cold beer in hand. She took the seat next to me, set her glass of white wine down, and started to talk. "Sweetie, we have such a good life and marriage. I love you so much. I don't want anything to come between us. I hope you feel the same." I listened carefully. I work hard to gather important information and understand the risks and rewards of big financial deals. I'm skilled at what I do. After 11 years together, being married for 7 of them, I started to notice signs that something was wrong. What she was saying felt different. "You have a wonderful job. You make enough for us to live well," I replied. "But you have a great career, too. Even if you don't earn as much, your work as a counselor at a shelter is so meaningful. You've helped more people than I ever could." She smiled, clearly happy with my compliment. But deep down, I felt like something was missing, and I wanted to understand why I felt this emptiness inside me. Oh, now things felt tense, like a storm was brewing. I looked at her face and saw that she was really waiting for me to say something. There was no trickery or shame in her eyes. "So, you want to talk to someone for help? That sounds fine, but let me explain. You know Tom and Ruth?" I nodded. Tom and Ruth lived a few houses down from us. I didn't know them well. I knew Tom worked in real estate and Ruth had a shop for women's clothes. As far as I knew, they didn't have kids. They had a sailboat in the Virgin Islands, which I had seen in pictures. It looked really nice. They invited me to spend a week in the islands to sail in the Caribbean. I had never done something like this before, and I think it could help me discover what I'm missing in life. I knocked over a bottle of beer, drank it quickly, and tossed it in the trash can by my chair. "When is this supposed to happen? We leave on Sunday and come back late the next Sunday. I can't take a whole week off work on such short notice. Plus, finding someone to watch the twins for a week on 2 days' notice would be tough." She shook her head and looked down. I could tell she knew that what she was about to say wouldn't go over well. "You're not in the plan. You were supposed to take care of the kids." I was stunned. I looked at her as if she had changed completely. "Let me get this clear. You're going away for a week on a sailboat with two people I barely know, leaving me here with the kids and work, and you didn't talk to me about it first. I'm talking to you now, 2 days before you're set to leave. The thing is, it seems like you've already made this choice without asking me. It's a one-sided decision. I looked her in the eye and pointed to the table to emphasize my point. No, I don't think so. You just need to call Tom or Ruth to thank them for the invite and then say no. She didn't blink, and her expression changed completely. A serious look came over her face. I'm sorry, but this is important for me to do. I know it will be hard for you with the kids, but you're strong and can handle it. It's just a week. My annoyance was growing, and I was struggling to stay calm. I clenched my teeth, trying to respond without sounding too harsh. Just then, the doorbell rang. My wife jumped up and rushed to open the door without a word. I heard voices, and to my surprise, she came back outside with Tom and Ruth. I stared at them, shocked. Ruth and Tom were smiling widely, and my wife looked at me as if they were in on a secret together. My mind was racing, and my thoughts were coming faster than I could keep up with them. This was a big moment. All the skills and tools I used every day when lives were at stake kicked in. Tom stopped, as if waiting for me to say something. I looked at him with a calm face. I was ready to hide my feelings, and the situation felt tense. A few awkward moments passed until my wife started to sit everyone down. I found myself between Tom on my left and Ruth on my right, with my wife sitting straight across from me. I didn't say a word. I learned long ago that the first person to speak in a discussion like this often ends up in the weaker position. Finally, it was Tom who broke the silence. We're so glad Shelley is coming to the Caribbean with us. I stayed quiet, my eyes on my wife, waiting for her to respond. She looked away. Ruth jumped in, saying, "She's going to have a wonderful time. It's so calm on the boat. She'll come back feeling great." I glanced back at my wife, but she was still looking at the table. I thought quickly. I don't need a new partner. I'm happy with the one I have. This made all three of them look surprised. Clearly, my reaction wasn't what they were expecting. Tom stumbled a bit when he spoke again. Shelley said you'd be fine with her taking this trip. Shelley was wrong. I was not okay with her going off to the Caribbean at the last minute with people we hardly know, leaving the kids and me behind. Tom looked worried at Ruth. She stepped in to keep talking. We hardly know each other. Shelley and I meet for coffee a lot. I turned to Shelley, who was still focused on the table. I thought you worked at the shelter every day. Shelley's voice was soft. A few weeks ago, I decided to cut back on my hours. I now work 3 afternoons a week. I felt things starting to make sense in my mind. Here was another choice made without me. Interesting. Is there anything else you want to share with me? She shook her head, seeing her avoiding the topic. Ruth jumped in excitedly. Shelley and I have become really close. We share a lot of the same interests. We're going to spend time sunbathing, swimming, and shopping in the islands. I looked at Tom. What are you going to do? The usual. I'll take care of the boat and make sure we enjoy ourselves. I nodded. Sorry for changing topics, Tom. What do you do for work? I'm an independent real estate developer. Do you work for a company, bank, or something? No, I'm independent. I make deals with landowners, lenders, and building firms to get projects started. Then I help find landlords for properties and take care of the buildings once they are built. Do you have an office? I work from home. I nodded. Things were starting to fall into place. Let me explain, and you three tell me if I'm seeing this right. Bright smiles suddenly appeared on all our faces. Shelley, over the last 3 weeks, you've changed your work hours to spend time with Ruth and Tom at their home? Or have you been to our house too? The smiles faded quickly. I waited for Shelley to say something. I honestly didn't think you'd mind. My income isn't a big deal. It's not about money. The point is, you made an important choice in our lives without telling me. Anyway, let me keep going. I looked at the three of them and saw their worried and confused expressions. Clearly, things were not going as they had hoped. Because of your new friendship with Tom and Ruth, you have been invited to the Caribbean for a week, and they will pay for it. Oh, I have to pay for my flight. I left it there without saying more. And you three plan to spend the vacation swimming, sunbathing, shopping, and having fun. All three of us were shocked. Tom was the first to recover and said, No, nothing like that. No one said anything specific. No, but let me tell you what I think. My wife has changed her work hours. I suspect she did it to make it easier to spend time at your house. You work from home. That makes it more likely there's a regular situation involving all three of you. Over the past month, I've seen my wife's habits at home change a lot. I've noticed that she dresses differently in the mornings, and now I'm questioning why. Also, she has told me that she is going away for a week with people I don't know very well. Do you see why I'm a bit suspicious that there's more happening than your happy smiles suggest? The looks between the three of them said a lot. I should try to play a game of poker with them. I might win. Tom tried to save their plan. Bill, you're totally wrong. There's nothing going on between us. Shelley told Ruth she was feeling a little lost, like she was missing something in her life. We thought a trip to the islands might help her feel better. Tom, with all due respect, this sounds like you're planning to take Shell somewhere to help her with her feelings. I quickly changed the subject. Shelley, I'll be honest. You know I really don't want you to go on this trip with them. Whether you go against my wishes is up to you. Just remember that every choice has consequences, and it's often hard to know what they will be. That's the risk you take and the challenge you face. I pushed my chair back and stood up. Since Shelley invited the two of you here without me, I didn't think I should stay longer. She can have her friends over any time. I'm tired and going to bed now. I left without saying goodnight or goodbye. Upstairs, I changed my clothes, turned off the light, and climbed into bed. I lay on my side with my back to Shelley's bed. I fell asleep quickly. That night, I didn't know how long Tom and Ruth talked to Shelley. I didn't wake up when she came to bed. I usually fall asleep a bit later on Saturdays. When I woke up, I put on my work clothes and made some coffee. I'm not really a breakfast person, so I soon found myself on the lawnmower, cutting the grass in the front yard. Saturdays are when I get things done around the house, and if the weather is nice, I spend the afternoon at the pool with the twins. I had no reason to change my plan for that day. Shelley didn't want to talk to me. She seemed to avoid me in the house. I did see her on the phone a few times, looking at me through the patio doors. I guessed she was talking to Ruth or Tom, but I didn't pay much attention. Sunday mornings were usually quiet. The kids were busy with their videos. I like to spend quiet Sunday mornings on the pool deck with coffee and a tablet, catching up on the news. Shelley often joined me, but today was different. She stayed upstairs all morning. I didn't think much about it. I was just curious about what would happen next. Around 10 a.m., I went back to the kitchen for another cup of coffee and saw Shelley putting her backpack by the front door next to some luggage. I finished making the coffee and walked over to look at the suitcases. Shelley came downstairs wearing capri pants and a sleeveless shirt. I took a sip of my coffee. So, you're really going on this cruise? Yes, just for a week. It'll be good for both of us. Shelley, this will only bring more sadness than you think. She looked at me in disbelief. What do you mean? How can it be sad? I'm not trying to hurt anyone. If you want to ignore what this really means, then you're not thinking clearly. That's not true. I'm doing this for us. I shook my head and went back to the pool deck. Not long after, I heard the twins crying in the house. I quickly got up and went inside. The twins were standing at the door, crying and holding on to their mom's legs. Don't go, Mommy. Please stay with us. Who will drive us to school and make dinner? Shelley looked at me, expecting me to say or do something. I sipped my coffee and let her handle the situation she had created. She knelt down and spoke softly to them. It's okay, little ones. Mommy just needs some time alone. Daddy will be here, and he will take good care of you. I'll be back in a few days, and we'll bring you some fun surprises. She stood up, grabbed her bags, and helped the two 6-year-olds off her feet. I noticed Tom and Ruth waiting for us in their BMW SUV. Tom had the sunroof open. Ruth was smiling and waving. The twins were still crying for their mom when the BMW drove away. I gathered the kids and promised them breakfast. I didn't plan to cook, but I loved the chocolate pancakes at IHOP. After breakfast, we spent the morning at the park. There, I met some other moms sitting at a picnic table under a shady tree while their kids played. They were nice, and soon I joined their chat. One woman asked if I was a single dad, and I casually replied that I had been for a week. This led to many questions about my situation, but I tried to brush them off, saying my wife was on a family trip. After lunch, we went to Golden Arches, which had more games for the kids. It wasn't the healthiest meal, but it got me away from cooking in the house. I saw 3 other dads treating their kids to lunch and playtime. They were all single fathers with weekend visits with their kids. My conscience held me back from asking too many personal questions. After lunch and a long discussion, negotiating with 6-year-olds is always an adventure. They worked together so well, almost as if they could talk without words. I promised them a trip to the mall and the toy store. I left without buying anything and came back just in time to make dinner, enjoy some quiet time, and put the twins to bed. Just after 9 p.m., Monday almost became a disaster. I overslept, so I had to hurry to get the twins ready for school. The teacher met me at the door and asked if there was a problem. I explained that their mother was away and I was taking care of them alone. She shook her head and told me about the school lunch program. I didn't have time to sign up because I was already late for work. I spoke to my boss and shared a bit about my situation. He seemed annoyed but allowed me to change my work schedule to help with the twins' needs that week. I arranged to come in early to make up for the time I needed to leave in the afternoon. It reminded me of the moment at the start of this story. That night, as I lay in bed, tired out, I knew I had to do something to make things better. While staring into the darkness, an idea suddenly struck me. I thought about this problem for several hours and finally came to a strong decision. Once I made my choice, I quickly fell asleep. The next morning was a bit better. The kids were happy and managed to get dressed by themselves. They didn't look like fashion models, but they were ready to go. Since they would have breakfast at school, I dropped them off, chatted with the school secretary for a bit, and then headed to my office. My first stop was my boss's office. He looked worried when I walked in, sipping coffee and smiling. "Did you win the lottery, or is something up?" he asked. "Neither. I just have a request." He raised an eyebrow and said, "Okay, I'm listening." I told him I had almost 3 months of vacation time saved up. "I want to take 10 days off, starting tomorrow." "What? That's very short notice," he replied, surprised. I shrugged. I knew he couldn't say no. He might not like it, but I had the time, and I could use it however I wanted. "All right, I'll handle the paperwork." "Mind telling me what you'll be doing?" he asked. "Am I taking the kids away for a vacation? Are you going to meet your wife?" "I'm not sure yet. We'll see," I said. By the time I left the office to pick up the kids from school, I had everything ready for my plan. After school, the kids and I went to Walmart for some shopping. A few hours later, my wallet was a lot lighter, and the back seat was filled with bags. We grabbed a pizza to take home and had a picnic in front of the TV. The kids thought it was a great idea. Their mom would have been upset about pizza sauce on the carpet, but I didn't worry about that. While we ate, we talked and watched Frozen on the Disney Channel. I shared the exciting news that they wouldn't be going to school for at least 5 days, maybe more. This made them yell and laugh with joy. I then told them we would be going on a trip the next day. "We'll leave before lunch, fly over the ocean, and stay at a nice hotel by the beach." They squealed with excitement. When the kids finally calmed down and went to bed, I had to pack everything for our trip. It was almost 1 a.m. by the time I finished. I made sure all the luggage was by the door, ready to go. I figured if I forgot something, there would always be a Walmart in the Virgin Islands. An Uber arrived at our house at 9 a.m., and with the kids' help, we loaded our bags into the minivan. Then we were off to the airport. While we were on our way, I called the kids' school to let them know we would be away for at least 5 days. I knew traveling on short notice with kids could be tricky, but we were excited for our adventure. We boarded the plane easily and landed in the Virgin Islands 6 hours later. A shuttle was waiting for us at the airport, and it took us to our beach resort. We had no choice but to drop our bags in our room, change into our swimsuits, and head to the beach. The kids were thrilled, and I was right there, enjoying a tasty drink in my hand. We stayed at the resort for 2 days. We discovered that there was not just a beach, but also a big water park with a lazy river, slides, splash pads, and a wave pool. The bar had friendly staff from the island who were happy to serve me drinks. Things were really looking up. While the kids soaked up the sun, I was on the phone. I didn't want to spend all my time lying around. I finally found what I needed, and our next adventure was starting. That evening, I told the kids we would leave the resort the next day. They looked unhappy and surprised. Then I revealed that we would be getting on a boat to explore the islands. Early the next morning, we packed our things and took a ride to the local marina. The kids were excited by all the different boats in the docks. I spotted the man I was looking for. Jeff Turner looked to be between 55 and 75 years old. He had long gray hair tied back, a gray beard, bright green eyes that always seemed to twinkle, and a little belly over his swim trunks. I discovered that Jeff mostly wore swim trunks and very colorful Hawaiian shirts. He liked to go barefoot unless the ground was really hot. He was so suntanned that he looked like he belonged there. "You must be Bill. I'm Captain Jeff, and who are these two little friends?" I introduced the twins, who stared at Jeff with big eyes. I think they were trying to figure him out. "Let's go on board and get your things. Then I'll explain some rules for my boat." Jeff led us along one of the docks to a 65 fifth sailboat that was already moving fast. He helped the twins climb on board, and I handed him our bags. It took a few minutes to settle into our seats. Each twin had a small room with 2 beds, a desk, and a little window. I had a slightly bigger room with a double bed and a bathtub. Captain Jeff kept chatting, mostly about how to store our things and what the daily schedule would be on the boat. The kids listened closely, and I hoped they would cooperate. Once everything was ready, we returned to the main area and sat down. Here are my rules on my boat. No talking behind my back, no arguing. Everyone needs to help. If I ask any of you to do something, it should be done right away. If you don't understand, just ask. You are here to have fun, but you also need to learn. Our normal day will start with some chores on deck. Once those are done, we can go snorkeling, swimming, fishing, or even go ashore if we like the place. We can stay overnight. As the sun began to set, we lifted anchor and set off for our next spot. Sometimes we got there before dawn, and other times it was later in the day, but I wanted everyone to learn how to sail. Dad would help me keep watch. The other 2 would get lessons on being on the water. By the time we go home, they would be junior captains. I really liked this captain. Some other boat owners, I asked, wouldn't even think about taking 2 6-year-olds on their boat. Captain Jeff was excited about it. Come on, let's get the boat out of the marina and into the sea. Your dad isn't paying me to just sit here. We're going sailing! There were cheers and laughter. I watched Jeff skillfully steer the big boat out of the harbor. He only used the motor to get us through the marina. Once we were in the channel, he started giving directions. Bill, see the blue line at the bottom of the mast? Grab it and unhook it from that sail, then bring it to the winch and make 3 turns around it. He then said, when I tell you, hold on to the fishing line and turn the winch quickly. As I got closer to the mast and let go of the fishing line, I noticed Jeff with Ethan standing on a cooler and holding the steering wheel. Annabelle watched closely as Jeff guided Ethan on how to steer the boat. I heard Jeff call out to me, "Raise the mainsail now!" I took hold of the line and pulled the winch. I looked ahead and saw the mainsail rising slowly up the mast. I jumped as I heard a snap and felt a rush of wind fill the sail. The big white sail opened up, stretching over the side of the boat. The boat zoomed ahead, and when the winch stopped, Jeff said, "Untie that line and wrap it carefully at the mast's base." I followed his instructions and went back inside the cabin. Annabelle was standing on the refrigerator, both hands on the steering wheel, her eyes wide. "Daddy, I'm driving." We sailed for almost 3 hours. Jeff left me at the wheel, which was surprising since I didn't know where we were going or what direction to sail. His directions were easy. Keep an eye on the boat. If anything changes, let me know. I later found out the boat had a control system that made it easy to steer almost by itself. Eventually, Jeff came out with a big tray of cold snacks, cheese, fruit, and bread. The kids were excited, and I enjoyed the treats too. Soon, we reached a small island and dropped anchor in a calm cove. The water was clear, and about 50 yards away, we could see a lovely beach. Below, I thought I could almost touch the bottom. I could even see a lobster moving on the rocks. "We'll stay here tonight. Tomorrow we can swim, snorkel, and explore the island," Jeff said. "That will give everyone a chance to get used to life on the boat." "I'm surprised none of you felt sick from the waves." I shrugged. "I don't usually feel that way. The kids are tough." Jeff nodded. "We still have some chores to finish, and then we can think about dinner. My plan for dinner is spaghetti with meat sauce." "How does that sound?" "The kids enjoy spaghetti, and I like it simple. As long as he doesn't eat me first, I can usually handle it." Jeff smiled. After we finished some basic chores like cleaning the bathrooms and tidying up the cabins, Captain Jeff got the twins involved in making spaghetti. I sat on a bench at the dining table and watched. He seemed really in his element. The kids were helping him with the spaghetti and meat sauce, making garlic bread, and getting a salad from the refrigerator. Ethan, who really doesn't like green vegetables, said no to the salad. Jeff started talking about Sailor Popeye and how he ate spinach to get strong and beat bad guys like Bluto. Then he promised Ethan he would show him Popeye cartoons before bedtime. The kids ate happily, and I did too. I watched Jeff. He was paying more attention to the kids than I was. Ethan, making a face, still managed to eat about half of his salad. After we cleaned the kitchen, I sent the kids to bed. They weren't too happy about it, but they were tired. It had been a long day. When I walked back to the main room, Jeff was sitting at the navigation table. I pulled up a chair and watched him. He was writing in an old flight logbook. When he closed the book, he looked at me over his glasses and smiled. "Hey, Bill, would you like a drink?" "What do you have?" 3 or 4 beers, a good variety of drinks, soft drinks, fruit juices, and a nice wine collection. This yacht is pretty well stocked. It's a McGregor 65. It can travel anywhere in the world for years. It had the record for the fastest Atlantic crossing for boats of its kind. I thought for a moment before deciding on a beer. Good choice, he said. He walked to the fridge and handed me a cold Coors beer. I opened the cap and we toasted our bottles. The beer tasted amazing. It was probably because of the boat, the sea, and the company. We chatted for the next 3 hours and got to know each other better. I learned that he used to be a firefighter in Texas. Right before he retired, his wife filed for divorce and took half of everything he had, including part of his pension. He checked his choices, cashed in his pension, and went to the islands. He never looked back. He worked at the marina for a few years, and then this boat was for sale. It was sad. It sat alone at the marina for a few years because the owners left it. The marina sold it to Jeff, giving back the space fee. It took almost all of his remaining pension. Jeff fixed up the boat by himself. 8 years later, he had 4 more small boats and owned part of the marina. He organized special trips and kept everything in good shape. He listened to my story and showed that he cared. "Are you going to get a divorce when you go back?" he asked. I wasn't sure. You know how divorce laws go. I'll lose a lot. She'll take half of everything. I'll have to give her money for living costs and support for the kids. I'll only get to see them a few times a month and on holidays. To me, that didn't seem fair. Jeff nodded, understanding my worries. I kept asking questions. Why did you agree to take the kids? I wondered. Most other charter captains wouldn't do that. Jeff took a breath and drank his beer. My wife got custody when I moved here. She wouldn't let me bring them along, not even for trips. I lost touch with my kids, and now they have kids of their own. I've never met my grandchildren. Being around kids like yours helps fill the emptiness I feel. I could see the sadness in his eyes as he talked about his family. That made me even more scared, thinking I might end up the same way. Then he surprised me with another question. Where's your wife during this trip? Oddly enough, she's somewhere in the Virgin Islands. She left with her friends for a week, I explained. I decided just a few days ago to come here with the kids. She left without saying anything 2 days before her flight. She told me she was going. She didn't ask. She told you, Jeff said, shaking his head. Then he looked up and asked, Do you know the name of the boat she took? No, I don't know anything. She didn't say where they were going, I replied. What's the owner's name? He asked. Tom Downey. His wife's name is Ruth, I said. Jeff stood up and returned with a clipboard. I realized my phone had no signal at all. Is there a signal here? I asked. He pointed to a small dome on the hut. Satellite. We have internet everywhere here. He tapped the screen for a few minutes and suddenly smiled widely. Tom and Ruth Downey own a 46T catamaran called Easy Play. It's a great boat with all the latest gadgets, including a tracking device. That sounds handy, I said. It lets you find the boat through satellites. It's useful for charter companies. You can visit a website to see where your boat is. It also helps the Coast Guard in emergencies, he added. Right now, it shows that Easy Play is about 100 miles south, near a group of small islands. That's interesting, I guess, I replied. Yes, interesting, Jeff said with a sigh. I'm done for now. Let's move on. That night, I woke up to sunlight shining through the porthole above my bed on the boat. Something felt off. When I went to bed, the boat was hardly moving. The only sound I heard was the gentle waves hitting the boat, and everything was calm. When I turned onto my back, I saw that we were tilted a bit to the right side of the boat. I could hear water moving under the boat, and the way it swayed told me we were traveling quickly. I put on some shorts and a t-shirt and made my way to the kitchen in the main living area. Jeff was at the navigation station, focused on a tablet on his desk. As I walked in, the smell of coffee filled the air. Jeff looked up and smiled. Coffee's brewing on the stove. The mugs are hanging right up there. I quickly poured myself a steaming mug of black coffee and walked over to the clipboard on the table. It looked like a weather map. I thought we would spend the day exploring the island, but I had changed my plans. After you went to sleep last night, I looked over things once more before heading home and noticed that the fun game had already started. They were on their way back to us. I had a feeling I knew where they were going, so I decided we should change our course to follow them. What destination? Jeff asked, touching the tablet. The screen changed to show a map. There were 2 trails, one blue and one red. I mistakenly thought the red trail was ours, and the blue one was the fun game. If I extend those lines, they would meet at a group of islands. These islands belong to a cruise company. They use them as stops on their cruises. If you're not on a cruise, you can buy a day pass and get there by private boat or shuttle. Private boats can come to their marina, get a day pass, and pay a fee to enjoy everything the island has. There are beaches, sailboats, paragliding, a water park, pools, bars, and restaurants. It's really a big playground. One island is only for adults. You can guess what that means. I think your friends are heading there. So, why are we going there? Well, for a couple hundred, you can buy a day pass for you and your family to the regular part of the island. You could do things that I don't often get to do, like paragliding or scuba diving. That sounds fun, and the kids would love it. I thought we might get a chance to see the fun game. Are you sure I want to see them? Why would I care? Jeff smiled slightly. You spent a lot of money for this trip. At the last minute, you might want to enjoy it and get something out of it, if you know what I mean. I thought about it. It would be interesting to sail this catamaran so everyone would see we weren't just at home thinking about what they were up to. How do you think the kids would feel about seeing their mother like this? I asked. The family island has a play area where you can check in your kids. They will keep them entertained all day with fun activities. This is meant to give parents some quiet time on the family cruise. I thought for a moment about slowly drifting away while standing on the railing of the 65-foot boat. I imagined waving goodbye to my unfaithful wife and her friends. A little bit of revenge could have lifted my mood. Jeff, you really have clever ideas, and I like how you think. How long until we arrive? I asked. A couple more hours, he replied. Soon, we would anchor the boat and secure it. You can get a pass for a couple of days for you and your kids. I will do the investigating. Maybe I can find fun activities without too much trouble. After that, we will continue our plan. I nodded, and for the first time in a long time, I smiled widely. The kids probably won't wake up for another hour or so. Tell me more about this boat and your business. It's interesting, I said. We spent the next hour and a half talking about the McGregor 65. He shared its history, the company that built it, and his time as a charter captain. I learned many new things. Jeff had mostly sailed in the Caribbean, but had crossed the Atlantic a few times. One of his dreams was to sail around the world and visit all the amazing places he had read about. The main thing holding him back was not having a crew or a partner. He didn't want to go alone. He asked about my life, and I shared a bit about where I was at that time. He wanted to know what the future looked like for him. Honestly, I don't know, I said. If you had asked me 2 weeks ago, I would have said I'd be working until my kids go to college. Then I would retire, and Shelley and I would do a lot of fun things together, like traveling. What about your kids? By the time I retire, they'll be in college and grown up. We would be empty nesters with the time and money to follow our dreams. He found that interesting. But now he asked, now with everything going on, I'm not sure. A divorce would mess up my plans and goals. I'm still trying to figure it all out. I was hoping this trip would help. Just then, 2 happy faces appeared in the cabin. The twins ran down the hallway, excited for the day ahead. Ethan suddenly looked serious. I'm hungry. You're always hungry, Jeff joked, but he quickly changed the subject. There will be breakfast, scrambled eggs, sausage, and toast. Who wants juice? Next, we spent the morning sailing. I was learning many sea terms. I was worried the kids would be bored, but I was wrong. Jeff kept them entertained by letting them steer the boat and help with the sails. In fact, the automatic navigation system took care of most of that quietly. As the dolphins swam alongside us, the kids enjoyed lying on the front deck, watching them. Just before noon, islands appeared on the horizon. As we got close to the harbor entrance, Jeff took charge of the boat and sped up. As we neared the docks, he already knew which buoy we would use to dock. I stood at the front of the boat with a mooring stick that had a line attached. This tool helped me reach the mooring ring on the buoy to hook it. Jeff skillfully steered the boat toward the buoy. As the front of the boat came near, I stretched out the stick to try and grab the buoy ring, but missed. On my second try, I got it, and I heard cheers from behind me as Jeff and the twins celebrated my success. I cleaned up the front deck, coiled the extra mooring line, and put the stick away in the sail locker. Jeff always liked the boat to be clean and organized, and I had learned that from him. As I walked back down, I saw Jeff lowering the inflatable dinghy at the back of the boat with the twins watching. When I got closer, Jeff smiled. Normally, I would just swim to the shore, but with the kids, it was better to take the boat. I need to stop by the harbor master's office to set everything up. I told Jeff that while I was on the island, he should take the kids to get their passes. I nodded as Jeff climbed into the inflatable boat. I helped each of the kids down into the boat and climbed in myself. The motor started and we zoomed toward the pier. Jeff went to the marina office and I headed to the island office just a short walk away. The kids were excited and played volleyball on the beach as we walked. We saw a boat pulling two people in the air on a parasail. It took me about 45 minutes to get everything sorted out at the office. I had to show our passports, but Jeff had already warned me about that, so I kept them in a waterproof pouch on my belt most of the time. I spent checking in, finding out about all the activities. Some had extra fees, like parasailing and snorkeling. I decided to skip those for now, but signed the kids up for fun daytime activities. This would give me some free time. After getting our passes, we headed back to the marina. I spotted Jeff sitting at a table under an umbrella. He had a drink in front of him and a clipboard with several bags and boxes piled on a bench beside him. He looked up and smiled as we got closer. "All set?" he asked. "Yes. I signed the kids up for a day's program tomorrow. They'll have activities supervised from 9 to 5. I also learned that the same place offers babysitting in the evening if needed." "Great. We can stay out as long as we like," I said. I got some supplies from the ship store and arranged for fresh water to be delivered to our boat. I learned a long time ago that it's important to always take the chance to fill up your tanks with fuel and water. I nodded and said, "I suggest you take the kids and go explore. This whole island is like a big playground, and most of it is free for guests. Take your time and have fun. I'll stay on the ship to take care of some maintenance, then I'll relax and read. When you're ready to head back, just check at the office at the marina, and a small boat will take you back." I looked at the kids, who were already staring at me with excitement. "Let's get this adventure started, Jeff. We'll see you tonight." "Can we bring anything for you?" "No, I'm fine," I replied. Jeff picked up his stuff, and I took the kids' hands as we left to enjoy our day. It was late evening when we finally arrived at the small boat at the marina. Jeff was lying on the cushions, reading. He stood up as we got close. Permission to come aboard?" "Captain?" "Of course." I lifted the two sleeping kids up to Jeff. Ethan and Annabelle had fallen asleep as soon as they settled down. After getting them on board, I climbed onto the deck of the bigger boat. Jeff was holding Annabelle, and Ethan was curled up on a cushion. "Do you mind carrying Annabelle to her cabin while I take Ethan?" "Not at all." I took Ethan into his room, laid him on the bed, and tucked him in with a blanket. He was sandy, but I decided to handle that in the morning. As I turned the corner, I peeked into Annabelle's room. Jeff was looking at her as she lay in bed. He gently placed her down without changing her clothes. I saw his shoulders go up and down a few times. It looked like he was crying. I closed Ethan's door more loudly than usual. When I turned around, Jeff was walking out of Annabelle's room. "Bill, you might not think so, but you're still the luckiest guy I know, even now." He walked quickly back into the living room, leaving me surprised. I checked on Annabelle, closed her door, and went into the main room. Jeff was already sitting at the table. There were 2 glasses with ice and a golden drink on the table. Jeff pointed to the glasses. "This is the best rum you can find on the island. It's too good for those sweet drinks." I sat down, picked up a glass, took a sniff, and then a sip. I'm not a rum drinker, but I had to admit that this was something special. I looked at him in surprise. "It's amazing." He nodded. "I have more news too. The yacht Easy Play has docked at the adult island and will be here for the next 3 days. I assume they will stay until it's time to leave for the Virgin Islands and catch their flight home." I listened carefully. I realized it was time to make a choice. "What do you think?" Jeff took a deep breath. "It really depends on what you want to do next." I felt like I was on a deciding path. I had to choose whether to keep looking for answers or just go with the flow. I noticed Jeff catching my uncertainty. "Listen, you have a few days left. Take the kids to the activities tomorrow. Then we can spend all day exploring the other island and see what's happening there." I wasn't sure about visiting that island. "I understand," he replied. "But we can take the motorboat around the island and check it out." So that's what we did. The next morning, after the kids had showered and changed into clean clothes, I took them to the beach. Jeff prepared the boat, and soon after I returned, we set off. It took us about 45 minutes to reach the other island. We entered a small cove and carefully made our way to our spot. The only catamaran we found was called Easy Play. I wasn't sure what to expect, but it wasn't exactly what I imagined. As we entered the harbor, I had some high-powered binoculars. I finally focused on Easy Play. I was surprised to see Tom, Ruth, and Shelley all on the boat. Tom was relaxing on a trampoline between the 2 hulls of the catamaran. Ruth and Shelley were resting on cushions in the big cockpit. What stood out even more was that Ruth and Shelley were holding each other close. Jeff quietly moved our boat closer to Easy Play. None of the 3 seemed to notice us at first. When we were about a boat length away, Tom turned to look at our boat. He didn't seem very interested until I lowered the binoculars and looked straight at him. It took a moment, but I could see him recognize me. I could hear him clearly say, "No way." One of the women asked, "What?" I leaned toward the rail of our boat as Jeff guided us near the catamaran. I watched as Ruth and Shelley stopped what they were doing and looked over at us as we sailed by. Then I heard Shelley say, "What's going on?" I waved my hand as if I was giving a silly salute, then turned to Jeff. "Captain, I think we've done what we needed to do. Let's head back." Jeff didn't say anything. He turned the boat around, and as we moved past the catamaran, the noise from the engine got louder, and the boat went faster. I glanced back, and I saw the three on the catamaran staring at us with surprised looks. On the way back, Jeff and I talked about anything and everything. We set the sails, and when I finished on the front deck, he filled our glasses with ice and rum. We sat quietly on the boat as it made its way back to the main island. Finally, Jeff spoke up. "So, what now, my friend?" I shrugged. "I really don't know." I managed to grin. "Can the old pirate share some ideas?" "There's one big question you need to think about. Would you and the kids be better off with her in your life or not?" This was not what I expected. I sipped on my drink and thought about it. When I look at a stock, I usually do what people call a SWOT analysis. I write down everything I know about the stock in 4 parts: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Okay, what are the strengths of staying married? It's good for the kids, and it means we won't face a big financial crisis. Jeff shook his head. "That's not enough. What about the weaknesses?" "A loveless marriage, no trust, no real relationship," I said slowly. "Having to deal with being cheated on, especially around friends and coworkers. The harm it can do to the kids in such a bad atmosphere." "Right. And what about the possibilities?" Jeff asked. "That's a tough one. I'm not sure there are any. Sure, there could be a chance to fix things, but honestly, I don't see that happening right now. We may stay together as a family, but at what price? It would be empty and lacking love. I could keep working to make our financial situation stronger." "And the threats?" Jeff pushed with a grin. "The whole idea is a threat. It means an unhappy and unhealthy situation. I can see this turning so toxic that it could destroy us all. I just can't handle her cheating anymore." "Okay, did you analyze it? What did you find?" I knew it wasn't a deep analysis, but it showed me that I couldn't go back to living with Shelley. It would break me inside. I felt like it would hurt my children for life. Divorce would be hard on both of us financially, and a long fight would also be tough on the kids. I told Jeff I felt stuck. He poured 2 more drinks. "Bill, you're smart and careful, but sometimes those traits can hold you back. There are times when you have to let go of clear thinking and think differently." I looked at him, a bit puzzled. The drink had made my head feel a bit cloudy. He laughed. "Back in the day, we called it thinking outside the box. Some said it was choosing a path no one else has taken. The Chinese say that sometimes it's best to do what your enemy does not expect." I listened carefully, my forehead furrowed, and my eyes narrowed as I tried to understand. It was different from what I usually did, but after drinking some rum and feeling a lot of emotions, I realized Jeff had some good advice. As we got closer to the dock, Jeff took control of the boat and I went ahead to get the hook ready. I managed to do it in one go, even with the rum in my system. The boat turned to attach to the buoy as the wind blew, and I held onto the rope while looking out at the ocean. The wind changed direction a bit, and I could hear music from the beach for the tourists. I heard a Jimmy Buffett song, and suddenly his words made sense to me. I felt like I found my home. I turned around quickly and jumped into the cabin. Jeff was surprised to see me. I didn't wait, but grabbed a bottle of rum and poured 2 glasses. Once we sat down, I started to speak seriously. "Jeff, is this boat big enough to sail around the world?" "Of course. A few people have done it on a smaller boat. Why do you ask?" "Let's do it. Let's sail around the world and do all the things you've dreamed of." "You're crazy! Have you been in the sun too long or had too much rum?" "Maybe, but just listen." I explained my unusual idea that suddenly came to me. "I don't want to go back and live with Shelley. I know what she's like. I don't want my kids around that kind of life. Trying to live together would be harmful for all of us. Yes, we've talked about this. I don't want to leave her and give her half of everything I have. I won't pay her money so she can raise our kids in that bad lifestyle. That's not going to happen." "But what else can you do?" "I have an unusual plan. A plan she can't even think of." Jeff looked at me, tilting his head in confusion. "What's next? How hard is it to find a boat in the open ocean if it doesn't have a signal?" "It's almost impossible." "How many ports can boats go to?" "Thousands, at least." "What if someone offered you a chance to sail around the world for 11 years?" His eyes grew wide. That's a big deal. What do you need to make that happen? I have ties to the Virgin Islands, 3 boats, a small part of a marina, and a little beach house. How much can you sell the boats for? They're probably worth about $60,000 each. Do you really have to work at the marina? Not really. I just hang around and do odd jobs to keep busy between trips. Have you thought about selling the boats to another company? Let your partners run the marina and rent out your beach house. It could give you some money, let you have free time, and help you follow your dream. I noticed he took a moment to think, staring at his rum for a while. Such a trip would cost a lot. How will you pay for things if you just take the kids and run away? Your wife will be really angry. She will find every way to track you down, and you can bet she'll get the court to freeze your money. In a year, she can sue you and take everything if there's nothing left. I don't get it. I have nearly $1 million. If that money is hidden where only I can access it, how far do you think that could get us? With that much money, we could live well for years. I can work almost anywhere as long as I have a good internet connection. You have a satellite system on the boat. Is it good? Yes, it better be worth the high price. What about your kids? Would you just take them away from their mom? She left them behind that morning and didn't try to reach out to them after. Didn't you see them asking about her? Honestly, aside from the legal issues, I don't think I'd have any doubts. There will be legal problems, you know. You'd be running away from the law. So, the International Ocean Police will be after me? No, but if you try to go onto land anywhere, you could be found and sent back. I don't think that will happen unless we stay in one place too long, or do something to draw attention. I believe it's a risk worth taking. How long will it take to get ready? Maybe a week or 2, not long. I can do most things online. How do you feel about taking a group of misfits and heading off to unknown places for adventures? Jeff finished his drink, threw the cup on the table, and got up. Let's set off, sailor. Time to start this adventure. We didn't leave right away. The resort where we docked had great internet and phone service. I wasn't sure how reliable it would be on a boat. I convinced Jeff to give me a few days to get things in order before we left. While the kids played at the water park, I sat under an umbrella and worked on my laptop. My first task was about money. There were a few parts to my plan, but I could do everything online. I called my bank and split our joint account. Half of the money went into a new account with a different bank. The other half stayed in the old account, but I took myself off that account. Shelley had a small checking account from her job at the women's shelter, and I left that alone. I divided our savings account the same way, moving my half to the new account. Shelley had a retirement account, which I also left untouched. We had several mutual fund accounts, which I arranged to sell. I sent half of the money to her checking account and the other half to mine. That left only my retirement account and the value of my home. Luckily, because I had a good credit score and a good connection with my banker, I was able to get a loan to buy the house. After we finished all the paperwork, I planned to put all the money into my personal checking account. I left my investment account as it was. When I checked it, the balance was almost $9 million. I hadn't worked in a week, but my accounts were still growing. I preferred not to touch it until the last moment. So, I started taking steps in reverse order. I opened several bank accounts in other countries where I knew there was little connection to the U.S. These accounts were risky because the political and financial situations in those places were not stable. But I had a strategy. In just a few hours, I opened the same type of accounts at 12 different banks in different countries. I set up a method that automatically sent any money that came into these accounts to the next bank in line. My final move was to go to a trusted bank in Switzerland and open the same type of accounts using a business name, which I used for my financial plans. This may seem like a lot, but I wanted to make it hard for Shelley or anyone else to track these money transfers. Once I finished for the day, I went to play with the twins at the park. The next day, the kids joined the group with supervision, and I took them to an island adventure. They were headed to the other side of the island to visit a nature reserve and learn more. I checked my new accounts and saw they were all set up. When I logged into my banking app, I noticed the home equity loan was ready. I quickly moved all the available money into my new checking account. Soon after, I checked my new bank app and saw nearly $400,000 in it. That money was heading to the first offshore bank in my plan. I didn't close the account. I left $10 in it. While the kids were out, I looked into online learning programs for elementary school kids. The internet had helpful answers from different forums where traveling families shared tips. One person recommended a program that received good reviews from other families. I set up an account, registered both kids, and ordered the learning materials to be delivered to our next stop. We planned to visit the Virgin Islands because Jeff needed to finish some business there. Additionally, he wanted to make some upgrades and additions to the boat. His partner at the marina promised to get everything ready for installation and had all his helpers work fast to finish the tasks by noon. While waiting for the shuttle to return with the kids, I checked my Swiss bank accounts. All the transfers were done successfully. There was just one more thing to take care of. I planned to handle it the next morning, just before we dropped anchor and set sail. The next morning, the kids felt sad about leaving the island, but they understood it was time to go. I was surprised that we hadn't seen Shelley, Ruth, or Tom. I was ready to talk to them, but they never showed up. I had no clue what they were doing or where they had gone. I woke up early and sat at my laptop while the coffee brewed. I sent a letter to my old boss. I apologized for quitting through email and for how fast it happened. I asked him to send any money I had left to my new checking account and provided him with the details. The money would automatically transfer and reach my Swiss bank. I also asked him to handle my investment account the same way. With this done, I leaned back in my chair and took a sip of my hot coffee. I had moved on from my past life. It was time for a fresh start. Less than 2 hours later, the Virgin Islands port disappeared behind us. We were facing the open ocean with no set plans. Truthfully, we didn't even have a good idea of where we were going. I wanted to almost vanish. Jeff wanted to sail around the world. The kids were happy and enjoying themselves. It didn't surprise me that they talked about their mother only a few times. Back in the States, I emailed a few people. I let my parents know we were doing well and shared a little about what had happened. I explained my choices. I used several untraceable email accounts and a good VPN to keep us hard to find. Our first journey took us north along the East Coast. We stopped at several historic ports before heading east into the Atlantic for our first crossing. I also contacted an old friend who was a lawyer on the West Coast. I transferred enough money to pay him a good fee and planned to use him often. He arranged for a private investigator to follow Shelley. I soon learned she struggled to pay the higher mortgage on the house and had to sell it. This left her with some financial trouble. She moved in with Ruth and Tom. That didn't shock me. She even sold my car, likely forging my name on the title. But I wasn't worried. It seemed Shelley wasn't really looking for us. Looking back, it makes sense. She couldn't afford to hire a professional to find me. Her parents took action and made a report to the police and the FBI about my absence. Unfortunately, they didn't get very far since I was the legal guardian and had the right to take my kids with me. Shelley managed to gather enough money to start a divorce case, claiming I abandoned our children. They also filed a case against me about the money I sent away, but no one could trace it. They couldn't find me either. After a year, I asked my lawyer to stop spending money on new tools. It took nearly 4 years for us to sail around the world. I learned everything Jeff could teach me and signed up for an online master's degree. I passed my tests and got my master's license while we sailed across the Southern Ocean towards Peru. A month later, we arrived near the Panama Canal. One of the last things on Jeff's wish list was to go through the canal from west to east, which would bring us back nearly to where we started. Most of the sailing was done by me. The twins had become skilled at steering the boat, which helped me a lot. As soon as we crossed the channel, I noticed something different about Jeff. Late one night, while we anchored in a quiet spot near Cullen, he was drinking a beer. I was happy just listening to the sounds of birds and monkeys in the jungle nearby. "Bill, we need to talk," he said. I looked at him, surprised. "You betrayed my trust, Jeff." This made him laugh, but then he became serious again. "I don't have much time left. I saw a doctor when we were in Perth. He told me I have stage 4 pancreatic cancer. I don't have long." I was shocked and didn't know what to say. "You don't have to say anything. Everyone knows life ends this way. I've had good times. There are some things I regret and memories that hurt to recall, but overall, I'm happy. You, Ethan, and Annabelle have made my last years more than I ever expected. I love you like the son I never had, and I care for them both like the grandchildren I always wanted. I have a favor to ask you." "Of course. What do you need?" "My daughter lives in Corpus Christi. I've reached out to her, and I think we've finally moved past the anger from her mother. Her kids are grown and in college. She's divorced now. Her ex-husband left her for someone else after a long affair. I want to have some time to connect with her again. I will need hospice care soon, and I wouldn't want to put that burden on you and the kids. Please take me to Corpus." I cried and knelt beside him, wrapping my arms around him and resting my head on his shoulder. He patted my back, then pulled away a bit to look me in the eye. "You were the best friend I could ever ask for." I wiped my tears and took a deep breath. "Jeff, why don't you go to bed?" He nodded, and I helped him get up and walked him to his bunk. I sat down at the navigation table and started to plan our route. Jeff came back to the cabin, peeked into the dining area, and looked around, puzzled. I sat at the steering wheel, just watching him and the sails moving gently in the bay. What was happening? I looked at the sails again. I set the boat to sail by itself and then raised the sails. I did this after I was sure Jeff was asleep. I raised every piece of sail the boat could handle. We were moving fast, almost 21 knots. You could feel the boat humming and splashing through the water. It was exciting. We're heading to Corpus Christi, I thought to myself. Wow, Bill, you're really pushing this boat. Was it that big Genoa? Yes, I had to pull it up from the bottom of the sail area. It was a hard job to do alone, but the boat really moved well. It felt like she enjoyed going fast. Jeff walked into the back area and sat down. For the first time in days, he looked relaxed. I've always wanted to let her go full speed, he said with a smile. I'm glad you did that. Where are we now? He asked. Halfway to the harbor. We'll get there in about 12 hours. I entered Corpus Christi Bay and made contact with the marina. They gave us a spot to dock with power. It was easy to find. Soon we were tied up to the dock and connected to the electricity. The next morning, Jeff called his daughter. It was already lunchtime, and we were sitting in the back of the boat when she came down the pier. Jeff stood up, and I helped him out to the walkway. For a moment, I watched them stand face to face, not knowing what to do. Finally, I whispered to him, "Come on, give her a hug." That seemed to break the tension. They embraced and started crying, just like kids. I let them stay like that for a few minutes and then called them to come back to the boat. Jeff, this is Priscilla, my daughter. I'm a bit embarrassed. I don't even know her last name. I looked at Priscilla. I knew she was around 55 years old. There were a few gray strands in her shoulder-length hair. She looked like my father. She was a beautiful woman with a few extra pounds. We all tend to get. She had some wrinkles, but she was still lovely. My last name is Johansson, she said, like my father's. I took it back after my divorce. I introduced myself. I'm Bill Spencer. She smiled, and it was a nice smile. Just then, the twins, who were now 11 years old, peeked out to see what was happening. They were curious about the new woman on the boat. I introduced them, and they came over to shake Priscilla's hand, waiting eagerly for what would happen next. Annabelle could hardly wait. Are you really Jeff's daughter? She asked. Yes, Priscilla replied with a warm smile. Can I ask you a question? Sure, go ahead. Why did you hurt your dad? I nearly choked. Jeff looked shocked, almost like a deer caught in the headlights. I noticed Priscilla look down for a moment, then she met Annabelle's eyes and answered slowly but firmly. I know my dad was upset, but I didn't really understand what happened. I was only 12, not much older than you. My mom took me and my two brothers to live in a new place with another man. She told me that Dad was not nice and that she needed to leave him to find someone who would love her and us better. That's all she said. Since Dad never reached out, I thought she was right. Years later, I found out my mom left Dad while he was working at the fire station. She didn't let him see us. She told the police he was violent and dangerous. Priscilla was crying, staring at Annabelle. She didn't notice that tears rolled down Jeff's face and mine, too. I understood why they were crying, but I was surprised at how sad I felt. As a heavy weight formed in my chest with these sad truths, for now, I pushed those feelings away. Annabelle came over and hugged Priscilla. It's time to give you back what you've missed. When had my daughter become so wise? I looked at her in amazement. Ethan, being his usual self, broke the tension by saying, I'm hungry. What are we having for dinner? We all laughed. I looked around at everyone. If it's okay with Jeff, I'll be happy with dinner tonight. It's our first day here in a while. Priscilla, do you have any ideas? I know a place if you like fresh seafood. We eat seafood a lot. She thought for a moment and said, how about some homemade Tex-Mex? That sounded good to me, and the kids looked interested. We packed up and headed towards the pier. Oh, wait, we don't have a ride. Can you fit 5 of us? Sure, my Tahoe will be comfy. After a delicious dinner of enchiladas, tlayudas, tacos, tamales, and chalupas, we ended with some sweet treats and fresh Texas honey. I felt full. The kids were still enjoying the honey, and Jeff looked tired. I think we should take Jeff back to the boat. He's had a long day. Why not come to my house? I have 5 bedrooms and bathrooms. It'll just be me, so you won't be in the way. I looked at Jeff. He seemed unsure. So I turned to Ethan and Annabelle. Priscilla added, I have a pool and a hot tub. That made a difference. There was no way we would go back to the small cabin on the boat that night. We all piled into the SUV and soon pulled into the driveway of Priscilla's nice home. She parked in the garage, and as soon as the door closed, we all hopped out and went inside. Through the kitchen, I looked around, feeling amazed. After almost 5 years living in a small boat cabin, being in a big house felt amazing. It hit me that we didn't have any of our clothes or bags. When I told Priscilla, she just waved it off. My sons and grandsons come here often. They have clothes and toiletries. Make yourself comfortable with them. If you need anything, there's a shopping center less than a mile away. We can go shopping tomorrow. Her words caught Annabelle's interest. Really? To a real mall? I realized my kids would soon be back in a busy world. I hoped it wouldn't feel too strange for them. After showering, we tucked Jeff into a cozy bed. The kids were already playing in the pool. I sat alone at a patio table when Priscilla brought out 2 mugs of beer. "Can I charm you?" she asked. "Of course, it's a lovely house. It feels too big for me now. When the kids lived here, it was always so lively and fun. I'm sorry about that. My dad missed those times. Times if I'm not getting ahead of myself, do you want to hear what happened?" I now knew that my mother was a cruel and unfair person. She cheated on my father for many years. Eventually, she met someone else and decided to leave. My father was a firefighter, but she chose to be with a banker who she thought was rich. It turned out he was not faithful and started cheating on her right after they were married. 2 years later, their marriage fell apart when she was found cheating with her husband's boss, who owned part of the bank where he worked. This led to another marriage and another divorce. By then, I was on my own, trying to make my life better. My mother turned us against my father, kept us away from him, and used her new money to fight him. In the end, he cashed in his pension, gave her what the court ordered, and left. We did not see him again until he met me a few months ago. "And what about you?" I asked. "I married young. I was 19 and he was 26. He had family money from oil in West Texas and wanted to be important in Austin society. He dreamed of being a politician, but that didn't work out. Instead, he became too focused on social events. He wanted to be seen at big parties and dinners. We had 4 kids together. Things went well until he was caught with a powerful man's wife. He spent 3 months in the hospital after that. Nobody wanted to be around him in Austin. He then decided to move to Corpus Christi, where he got mixed up in some shady business deals related to imports and exports. Soon, he ended up in jail for trying to import drugs. In the end, he was sent to a maximum security prison in Colorado for 55 years. There was no chance for parole because it was a federal crime. I divorced him and kept the house and cars, but nothing else. The government took all the cash and other assets he had earned through his wrongdoings. My lawyer was able to argue that we bought the new house with the money we got from selling our house in Austin, so we didn't lose it. I went back to school and earned my nursing degree, eventually becoming a nurse. And now it's time for you to hear my story. I took a sip of my beer and shared it with her. She was curious about how I met her dad. I told her about how I found my wife and her friends on a boat, and then decided to take a trip. At dawn, Priscilla listened as I told her a short version of our journey around the world on her father's yacht. "It sounds like a fairy tale," she said. "Maybe it does to some, but it also has a darker side that could turn it into a tragedy." "How so?" she asked. "When Annabelle wanted to know what happened between you and your father, I heard what you said and realized I did something similar to my ex-wife. I never gave her a chance. I didn't listen to her. I took the kids and kept them away from her. Looking back, I see that she really cared about our kids. While we were together, she was a good mother, even though she wasn't a great wife. Now, I'm not sure if what I did was right." It was late at night. I looked out at the dark pool with the soft moonlight reflecting on it. Priscilla didn't say anything. I heard her put a beer bottle down on the table, and she quietly said, "It's not too late, you know." "Not too late for what?" "To start fixing the damage you left behind," I replied. "I don't know. I'm unsure if there's anything left to start with." "What do you know about her?" she asked. "For 3 years, I haven't known anything. I stopped checking up on her. I don't know if she's searching for me or not." She said, "I haven't known you long, but I know my dad really values your friendship. He believes in you, so I want to do the same. I heard that you made your choices, thinking it was best for your kids." "Yes," I said. "I didn't want them to see that lifestyle. She had swinging doors in her bedroom, and I didn't want my kids to grow up in a home where new men came by every night. I wanted them to feel safe and loved. I see your kids have done well because of that. They are among the most polite, cultured, and knowledgeable teenagers I've met. You've done a great job, but they are older enough to make their own choices. Don't you think it's time to let them decide what they think about their mother?" At that moment, I felt a light turn on in my darkened heart. I took a deep breath and said, "Priscilla, your dad played a big role in raising those kids. Sleeping in your room, they learned just as much from him, if not more, than they did from me. I believe that if we hadn't come together and spent the past 5 years on the ship, things would be different. I also think you've inherited a lot of your dad's wisdom and common sense. You have helped me see things differently, and now I understand what I must do. This won't be easy, and I don't know how it will turn out, but you might be the one to help me." She looked at me as if I were strange, but seemed to understand what I meant. "You have a lot to deal with. Is there anything I can do to assist?" "No, you should focus on your father. Make the moments you have count. I'm taking the kids to the boat tomorrow. Make sure Daddy has everything he needs. I'll handle the rest. You know how to reach me. I'll be busy myself." I got up, finished my beer, and went straight to the bedroom where I was staying. I slept well and peacefully. When I woke up, I felt full of energy and happiness, perhaps for the first time in a long while. Downstairs, I found the kids with Jeff and Priscilla. Everyone was helping to make breakfast, and someone handed me a plate full of blueberry pancakes. When I sat down, a warm mug of coffee appeared next to me. Life felt good. After breakfast, I told the twins we were going back to the boat so Jeff and Priscilla could have some private time. I called in an Uber, and soon we were on our way. Ethan and Annabelle knew about Jeff's health, so we didn't talk much. Then Annabelle broke the silence. "Daddy, don't you think it's nice that Jeff and Priscilla are together again?" "Yes, sweetheart, I do. I just wish it happened under better circumstances." It was quiet for a bit, and as we reached the pier, I fell into thought. I paid the Uber driver and gave him a nice tip. As we walked down the pier, I made a decision and hoped it was the right one. Back on the boat, we cleaned up as we usually did. I got 3 Cokes from the fridge and placed them on the table. "Guys, we need to talk." They both sat down. I could see they were worried. I slid a glass of soda to each of them. They knew something important was about to happen. Sodas were usually a treat, and I doubted they had ever had one before lunchtime. "I want to say I'm sorry to both of you. What I did was wrong. I thought I was doing what was best. Now I see I was only thinking of myself. I want to fix my mistake and make things right for you." They looked at me confused, not sure what to think. "I got mad at your mom and tried to hurt her in return, but in doing that, I hurt you too. You might not see it now, but you will in time. You can thank Priscilla and Jeff for helping me realize my mistake." When we left that place in the Virgin Islands and didn't look back, Ethan seemed puzzled. Annabelle looked at me with concern, but I thought she might also understand. "But Dad, you did what you thought was best for us. Mom left us. We didn't leave her." "You're right, Princess. Everything that happened was about me and your mom. I shouldn't have involved you as much as I did. She may have forgotten that she loved me, but I'm sure she hasn't forgotten how much she loved you. I took it very hard and put you through the same suffering. Dad, you never punished us." "Actually, I did. I took you away from your mother, who I know loved you deeply. I took away your time with her. You missed having her around as you grew up. I took away what Jeff lost due to his ex-wife. I didn't realize how much pain it caused until I heard the hurt in Priscilla's voice when she talked about growing up. She wondered why her dad stopped loving her. I felt a rush of emotions, and I knew I needed to make things right. I saw tears in my kids' eyes. I didn't know what made them feel this way, but I kept going. I will do everything I can to find your mom. I want to bring the 3 of you together so you can reconnect and heal that bond. I hope she can still be a part of your lives, and I hope you understand why I'm doing this and help me." "Oh, Dad, you don't need to do that. We're doing fine. You've been the best dad we could have ever wished for. The time we spent on the boat traveling was a dream come true. I'm glad you feel that way, but you might not know what you missed with your mom. I can't ignore that. In good faith, I know it will be hard. I can't guess how it will go." Ethan listened closely. "Dad, do you think you and Mom will get back together?" "I doubt it, son. Too much has happened since then. We have moved on, and I admit that what I did to her was really hurtful. She might even hold me accountable for some of my actions. I am okay with that. I truly believe you both need to fix your relationship with your mom." We kept talking as they asked how I planned to make this happen. I wasn't sure, but I decided my first step would be to contact my old lawyer and see if he could help find Shelley. I would do that first thing in the morning. 3 weeks later, Ethan, Annabelle, and I were in an Uber going from the airport in our old hometown to downtown. My lawyer had given me useful information. I found out that Shelley had sold her house and her fancy SUV. She moved into a small apartment near a shelter where she worked. She returned to the shelter as a counselor. The pay wasn't high, but it helped her get by. Now, almost 6 years later, she was the director of the women's shelter and earning a better salary. The Uber dropped us off on the sidewalk in front of the shelter. For safety, we needed an appointment to enter the building. Annabelle stepped up and signed in with her name. Then Annabelle rang the doorbell. A voice came from inside asking who was there. Annabelle gave her name and the appointment code. The door clicked open, and we stepped inside, where a large security guard greeted us. He quickly stopped us and began asking questions. Who are you? I'm Annabelle's father, and this is her brother Ethan. We're here to see the principal. Why are you here? These are her children. The guard looked at us with some doubt, but then he guided us into a small waiting room. I noticed cameras installed in the corners. It felt like we were being watched. You'll stay here, he said. I'll check if she wants to see you. We all sat down in the chairs. The room was quiet, and none of us spoke. Suddenly, the door swung open, and Shelley walked in. It's you! I saw you on the security monitor, but I couldn't believe it. You've grown up and got so much color in your skin. Oh my gosh! She looked shocked. The guard stood behind her, watching closely. Shelley turned to me. Bill, you look different. You've lost weight and gotten a tan. Where have you been? Can we talk somewhere without cameras and guards? Maybe with nicer chairs? Shelley scanned the room, collecting her thoughts. I noticed her tone change as she began giving instructions. It was clear she was back in charge. Stan, please take my kids and ex-husband to the living room. I'll be there soon. I need to speak to the receptionist and clear my afternoon. Okay, he replied. Soon, we found ourselves sitting in a nicely furnished living room with a small kitchenette. There were leather couches and chairs, tables, and shelves filled with children's games and books. We settled in just as Shelley entered the room again. She looked confident and immediately began questioning the kids. Where have you two been? You look wonderful. Have you both been going to school? Without waiting for their responses, she turned to me. When I met her intense gaze, I realized this might not go well. And you took my kids away, left me in a tough spot, and did so much to make my life hard. Remember what happened on the islands? You just stood there smiling and then you didn't come home. I had to make Tom and Ruth drive me to the airport, and I took the first flight back. I waited for you, but you never showed up. Not a single word from you in 6 long years. I didn't flinch. I stayed calm and tried not to show my feelings. I could see my response surprised her. It was different from what she expected. You're right, Shelley. I made mistakes, and what I did hurt you and the kids. I truly regret that. That's why we're here. Okay, she finally said. What do you want? I don't really want anything. Well, I do want something. I want you to be back with our kids. I want you to spend time with them and be part of their lives. I know I took away some important years from you. I hope the 3 of you can make up for that lost time. She looked shocked. She glanced at the kids sitting quietly on the couch, then back at me. After a moment, she gathered her thoughts, and I saw anger return to her eyes. What about you? I know you have something planned. What do you really want? I shrugged and lifted my hands in a small gesture. Nothing. I don't have a plan. Everything now is up to you. You can choose where things go from here. I noticed her leaning back in her chair, watching me with doubt. What if I said I wanted the kids to stay with me? I can help them start school next semester. I felt my pain show on my face. I saw the kids look surprised at what she said, but I stuck to my feelings. If that's what you want, Shelley, then I'll accept it. But you need to be ready to get checked before they can join the school. They have been taught at home all this time, so they may need some help to adjust in class. I think it would be good for you to spend time with them, to get to know them again, and see how they feel about this. They're both 16 now. In 2 years, they can choose for themselves what they want. Right now, it's your call. I don't think Shelley really believed I was making this suggestion. I stopped talking and let her think. I saw her frown, then turned to the kids. What do you think of what your dad proposed? Annabelle, the more aware of the two, spoke softly. Dad, we'd like to hear about what happened and how you were feeling. We know you were upset, and you probably felt you were making the right choice, but it ended up being hard on all of us. You really want to fix things? If you want to be our mother again, we're okay with it. Shelley listened with disbelief as her daughter spoke. She turned to Ethan. Does your sister speak for you? Yes, ma'am. We get everything. You're our mom. We never knew the full story of what happened between you and Dad. He never told us the details. He didn't say bad things about you. He only said you wanted more than he could provide. Shelley looked at me and I stayed calm. Then her anger returned to her face. Why did you leave without saying anything? You didn't give me a chance to explain things. I sighed and looked at her. Do you really want to do this in front of the kids? They've never heard about what happened. I saw her pause and then choose to move forward. so I was happy to let her take the lead. She went on, I loved you more than anything. When I saw you on the ship in the Caribbean, I felt so sad, ashamed, and embarrassed. When you didn't return and I couldn't find you or the kids, I got very depressed. Why didn't you talk to me? We did talk, Shelley. We talked a lot for 2 days after you surprised me with your plan. I begged you not to go on that trip, but you didn't listen to me. You might have loved me, but you cared more about your own wishes. You loved the kids, but wanted to be free from being a wife and mother. I won't say much in front of the kids, but your dreams about other people were more important than us. In the end, what mattered most was that Shelley had fun, no matter who it hurt. I have to give credit to the new Shelley. She listened without interrupting. She didn't shout like the old Shelley. I could see that she was upset, but she stayed quiet until she could speak calmly. When she finally did speak, she turned to the kids. Do you remember what your dad said? Annabelle looked at her brother and then back at their mom. Even at home, Dad was always around. You were fun, and I know you loved us, but I often wondered why you seemed unhappy with Dad, poking fun at him for small things and never standing up for him. Kids notice these things. Shelley looked down at her hands. When she looked up, her eyes were a bit red, and tears were rolling down her cheeks. I really was not a good mother, was I? I'm so sorry I treated your father poorly. I was selfish. She looked at me. Are you really serious about this plan? Yes, I should never have kept you and the kids apart. I took a lot away from you all. Now I can make things better, at least a little bit. Shelley looked at the kids. Will you really stay with me at least for a while? Ethan spoke up first. He sounded a bit impatient. Sure, Mom. Shelley looked at me, wanting to know how this would work. I shrugged. They have most of their things. If you're okay with it, I suggest they go home with you and settle in. I'll check in with you in a couple of weeks, and we'll see how they feel and how you feel, then we can plan more. I'm heading back to Corpus Christi tomorrow morning. Already? You're not going to stay and be part of this? It's time for me to make peace with you. The only bond we have now is Ethan and Annabelle. I'll keep in touch with them. If you need anything from me, you'll have my satellite phone number. She nodded quietly. She looked at me, and when she spoke, I could hear her voice trembling with excitement. Thank you. Back in Corpus Christi, I got busy fixing up the boat. I talked to Jeff and Priscilla almost every day. They seemed to be settling in well with their mother. I spent a lot of time keeping Jeff posted about the boat. Priscilla was often curious about my life with my kids and my ex-wife. I wrote regularly to Annabelle and Ethan. They were adjusting nicely, but were having a hard time getting used to living on the mainland in an apartment. Shelley took my advice and had both kids tested before enrolling them in the local high school. I felt proud when I learned that both kids scored above average, and the school allowed them to take advanced courses. They will graduate in the fall and have almost 18 college credits. It seemed like I was doing something right. I was doing well. I kept working on the boat, visited Jeff, and spent time with Priscilla. She kindly let me stay at her house while the boat was in dry dock for repairs. This helped me be closer to Jeff, whose health was getting worse. It had been nearly 2 months since I returned to Corpus Christi, taking the twins to Shelley. I was in dry dock, checking the hull below the waterline. After cleaning, repairing, and putting on a fresh coat of anti-fouling paint, I replaced all fittings, bearings, and shaft seals. I also installed a new Yanmar Marine diesel engine. Everything was ready. I added improved solar panels and new batteries for better power and runtime on board. A new desalination system would provide plenty of fresh water. I updated all the navigation software and autopilot and improved some hardware. All winches were taken apart, rebuilt, and fitted with new, more efficient motors. All sails were sent to the sail shop to be repaired or replaced. The old boat was to be better than ever. When she was ready to go back into the water, I was inspecting everything with the yardmaster when my cell phone rang. It was Priscilla. Picking up the phone made me feel alive. Hi, Priscilla, how are you? My mood changed instantly when I heard her voice. It was tight and full of feeling. Bill, Dad died just a few minutes ago. Can you come to the hospice, please? I'm on my way, I replied. I told the yard supervisor what happened, and he understood. I hurried to my rental car and raced toward the hospice where Jeff had been for the past few weeks. When I arrived, I found Priscilla standing at the door to his room. Inside, the staff and Jeff's doctor were taking care of the final details. Without saying anything, Priscilla shut the door behind her, and I wrapped my arms around her as she cried on my shoulder. I don't know how long we stood there like that. After a while, the doctor came out and asked to speak to Priscilla alone. She nodded and went with him into a room. I took my phone out of my pocket and made a quick call. Annabelle, is Ethan there? Yes. What's wrong? I need to talk to both of you. Can you get him? Put me on speaker and call me back. He's here, Dad. Hold on. Annabelle put me on speaker and I heard Ethan's voice. Hi, Dad. Hey, son. Can you both hear me? They both said yes, so I went on. I'm sorry to tell you this, but Jeff passed away just a few minutes ago. I heard them both crying softly, just like I expected. Annabelle spoke first. I wish I could have seen him one last time. I know. I'll keep you updated on the arrangements. I'm not sure what Priscilla will want to do. What are you going to do, Dad? I'm not sure either. We talked for a bit more, and when I hung up, I realized I was crying too. I sat on my chair with my elbows on my knees and my forehead resting on my hands, staring at the floor. I felt a hand on my shoulder and looked up to see Priscilla. She was smiling softly. Come on, Bill. Let's go home. Daddy's in good hands now. I stood up and she took my hand. We walked quietly to the parking lot. I followed her as she drove to the house and parked in the driveway by the garage. She waited for me in the garage, and we went into the house through the back door. Priscilla went to the cabinet and took out a bottle of Island rum that her father had introduced me to years ago. She filled 2 glasses with ice and poured the golden liquid into them, handing me one. She raised her glass to her father, a friend and a companion. I raised my glass and drank it down. We stepped onto the patio by the pool and settled into chairs. We had spent many evenings in that spot over the past few months, getting to know each other, telling stories, chatting, and often laughing. I looked at her and saw a calmness that came from her strength. What now, Priscilla? I don't know. I haven't had time to think about it. My father wouldn't say what he wanted. She smiled sadly. I asked him, and he always said, do what you want, it won't help me anyway. He wrote a will and gave it to me. It's sealed in an envelope and in my safe. I guess I can open it now. Isn't there a legal process for that? There might be. I'll call my lawyer in the morning. Right now, I just want to relax. Please stay with me. I'd rather not be alone. Of course. I have nowhere to go. I guess I really have nowhere else to go. The boat will be part of your father's inheritance. I will help get our things. Priscilla looked at me with sadness. This boat has been your home for 6 years. I'm very sorry you're going to have to let it go. I knew this would happen. The repairs are almost done. The boat will be back in the water in a few days. After we test everything, it will be ready for you. I think I should start looking for a new apartment for now. Don't rush into anything. You can stay here until it's all finished. Have you told your kids yet? Yes, I called them while you were at the doctor's office. They're really upset, but they're still young. Good memories will help them get through the sadness. You know he loved both of them. He treated them like his own grandchildren. In a way, they were. He was the only grandpa they ever had. We sat together late into the chilly evening, sharing stories and trying to cope with our feelings. By the time we headed to bed, the bottle of rum we shared was empty, just like my heart. Next, I focused on getting the boat back in the water. I took a crew from the boatyard and we set sail from Corpus Christi Bay. We slowly tested the boat to make sure everything was safe. Then while I was at the wheel, we added sails until we caught as much wind as we could. At one point, I looked at the panel and saw that the boat was moving fast. Jeff would have loved this. We started taking down sails and turned back to the bay as the sun began to set. I could almost hear Jeff laughing. We docked the boat, and the crew left for a local pub. They asked me to join, but I said no, not because I didn't want to have fun. As I was parking the boat, I spotted an SUV in the lot and saw someone walking slowly down the pier. I secured the boat and got onto the pier just as Priscilla came into view. Are you taking it easy tonight? She asked. Not really, I replied. I came to find you. Have you eaten yet? No, we just got back. The boat is ready. She's quick on the water. You have to let me take you for a ride one day when everything with the inheritance is settled, I said. I would love to, but I wanted to talk to her. Let's go to dinner. We ended up at a small seafood restaurant near the pier that I really liked. They often had fresh oysters and cold beer. We got a booth and placed our order. Priscilla spoke right away. My brothers are coming tomorrow with their families. The hearing will start at 9 in the morning. I want you to meet my brothers and their families before it begins. You should come to the hearing, too. Aren't those usually just for family? I asked. You were closer to Jeff than any of us. It makes sense for you to be there. That seemed to end the discussion for Priscilla. I was surprised, but out of respect for her wishes and Jeff's memory, I agreed to go. We finished our meal, and I was surprised to hear most of the talk was about the boat and our trip around the island. The next day, I found a nice pair of pants and a button-up shirt. While I was packing, I realized that most of my clothes now were khaki shorts and bright Hawaiian shirts. Jeff's fashion choices had really influenced me over the years. I drove to the courthouse with Priscilla. In the waiting room, I met 3 of her friends and their families. When the clerk called them into the conference room, I quietly joined the group. Priscilla took my hand and went in with me. The chairs were set around a big table. The district judge sat at one end and the clerk laid out some papers in front of him. He began the meeting, asking us all to sign in. After that, he opened an envelope and looked at the papers inside. He focused on Priscilla. "Did your father write this, his will?" "Yes, sir." "What was his condition when he wrote it?" "He had stage 4 pancreatic cancer, but he was clear-headed and comfortable," I said, recalling what his doctor had said. "I see there are 2 witnesses here, but no notary seal," the judge noted. "They were nurses on duty when he wrote this. There was no notary available." The judge nodded and continued reading the will. He said it was straightforward, but might have some surprises. "It might be better if I summarize the main points instead of reading everything. Does that work for everyone?" Everyone nodded, and the judge pulled out a notebook to jot down important notes as he reviewed the will again. Then he looked at us over his glasses. "According to this will, your father's main assets include a house in the Virgin Islands managed by a rental company, a quarter interest in a marina there, 7 investment accounts, 1 for each grandchild, a personal checking account, and a yacht. These will be divided like this. The 7 investment accounts are held in trusts for the grandchildren with specific instructions attached that you can review later. The rest of the assets will go to Bill Prescott." The judge looked at me. "I presume that's you." I was shocked. Everyone in the room was staring at me. I swallowed hard and said, "Yes, that's me." "You are named the executor of the will, which means you are responsible for the trusts in this document. The title to the house and the yacht will be transferred to you right away. You will need to talk with the Virgin Islands officials about the partnership for the marina and bungalow. I will have the clerk prepare the necessary papers, and you will get them by delivery in 3 or 4 days. That ends this meeting. I'm sorry for your loss." The judge stood up and left. The clerk collected the documents. I sat there still shocked. I could hear the chairs moving. I felt really worried that the angry family might come to blame me. A hand on my arm broke my thoughts. When I looked around, I saw the rest of the family standing near me. I wasn't sure what to do, so I tried my best to make peace. I said, "I'm really sorry. I had no idea Jeff planned this. I'm sure we can find a way to make everyone happy." Priscilla smiled and squeezed my hand. She said, "I was there when Dad wrote that will. I knew everything that was in it. He and I talked for hours about it. My brothers knew too. It didn't surprise us. We weren't expecting anything at all from it. We have a few requests, of course." "What can I help with?" I asked. "First, we want to have my father cremated soon. I want to take him to the islands and spread his ashes there. He was happiest there. I thought that was a wonderful idea. Second," she continued, "I'd like you to be the captain of the boat to take my dad and me to the Virgin Islands." I swallowed hard, tears filling my eyes. "It would be an honor," I replied. "Third," she said, "if you're okay with it, we hope you will keep this bungalow for yourself. We can all visit you, go sailing, and think of you as part of our family." I was so moved, I couldn't speak. My voice felt choked up. I just nodded eagerly. In the end, they said, "We're all going to my house for pizza and other food. You should come with us. You need to spend time with my brothers and their families." I knew I couldn't say no. I climbed into Priscilla's car, and off we went. After we reached home, I saw a huge stack of the biggest pizzas I had ever seen on the table. There was a great variety. Along with that, there were calzones, cheese sticks, big green salads, and one of the brothers brought a cooler full of drinks, including wine spritzers, beer, and cocktails. As soon as I settled in, I heard kids laughing by the pool, and everyone gathered around the patio table. I sat down, watching and listening. The brothers spent a lot of time asking Priscilla about the month she lived with their dad. She tried her best to answer their questions, but often I noticed she would look at me. Finally, I jumped in to help with the answers. Soon, all eyes turned to me. For the next few hours, I spoke a lot, but I also took time to observe her siblings. This told me a lot. Priscilla and her brothers, James and John, looked a lot like Jeff. James even looked very much like Jeff and, like his dad, worked as a firefighter in a neighborhood near Dallas. The youngest brother, Frank, took after their mother. He didn't look like Jeff at all and didn't share his father's friendly personality. Frank was usually shy and kept to himself. Sometimes he seemed a bit gloomy. It felt like he didn't really want to be there. They were curious about how I knew Jeff, so I shared everything. I talked about my wife's sailing trips, the journey around the world, and how Jeff opened up about his health. Everyone enjoyed the stories. Then Pam, James's wife, asked about the twins. I shared my version of Priscilla's story and how it made me think about my past choices. When I finished, Pam looked surprised. I can't believe you took your kids back to your ex-wife, she said. That must have been hard. It was tough. I miss them every day. I guess it's part of the consequences for what I've done before. Do you think they'll come back? I wondered. I don't know. They're in a new place now, plus they're getting older, almost adults. Pam looked at me and asked, "What about you? What are your plans?" I haven't really thought about it yet. I need to get back to the island and sort out things at the harbor. I'm just not sure right now. Pam glanced at Priscilla. Are you planning to stay in Corpus Christi? I don't think so. After so many years on the boat, the city feels too busy and loud for me. Going back to the ocean? I smiled. Most likely. The next day, everyone went their separate ways. I made some coffee and walked around the pool, picking up floats, toys, and towels. While I was tidying up, Priscilla came out in a nice green dress. I tried not to stare, but it was hard to look away. She watched me for a moment and then smiled. Don't feel shy, it's nice to be noticed. I thought about changing, but decided against it. No, this is your home, you should feel comfortable. Coffee is ready, I told her. Great, thanks. She went back inside and returned with a mug of coffee. I finished picking up things around the pool and sat with her at the table. Priscilla held her mug close and said softly, "Thank you. You've made this whole process easier for me. I'm glad I could help. Father's ashes will be ready tomorrow. When do you want to go to the island?" I asked. Whenever you're ready, she replied. The boat was ready to go, except for some supplies. I looked at her and said, I need a couple of days to finish getting supplies. How long will that take? She wondered. 2 or 3 days, depending on the weather, I answered. You're going to use the motor the whole way? I laughed. She clearly didn't know this boat well. Oh, no, we'll be sailing. She raised her eyebrows and sipped her coffee. Do what you need to get ready. I'll be gone for a month, I said. I need to choose a date to scatter my father's ashes. My brothers want to join, so we'll all likely be there. Is that okay? It's your family. You do what you want. I'm here to help in any way I can. She smiled. Today is Tuesday. Let's plan to leave Friday morning. I think I can have everything ready by then. What do I need to pack? Well, there isn't much space on the boat. Keeping it simple is important. My usual beach outfit is a pair of shorts or swim trunks and a shirt. I have a couple of nice pants and shirts for when we go ashore. If I go out, remember this is island life. Things are much more laid back here. I think I can manage. The next 3 days flew by. I called the marina to fill all the tanks and double-check everything on the boat. I made several trips to Costco for supplies. I might have bought too much, but I wanted this trip to be special. I planned our route, checked the weather, and adjusted our plans to use the expected winds. On Thursday evening, Priscilla and I took her things to the boat. I showed her the main cabin. She was really happy. I helped her put away her belongings, including the urn with Jeff's ashes. We placed it in a closet in the main area where we could see it while navigating. I wanted him to be with us on this journey and know the boat was in good hands. The next morning, I was doing last-minute checks when an Uber pulled up, and Priscilla got out. I watched her walk down the pier. She was wearing dark shorts and a pretty floral blouse. She smiled widely as she approached the boat. You make me feel special with that look, she said. You are special, I replied. I'm sorry. Don't say sorry. Help me into the boat. I took her hand as she climbed down. The sun was shining and a nice breeze was blowing. I felt happier than I had in a long time. I may have held her hand a bit longer than I needed to. She looked down, and I could have sworn I saw her cheeks turn a little pink. When I finally let go, there's nothing holding us back. Let's start this adventure.